Outlier is it's a clothing company. What we make is what we call tailored performance clothing. So take high-tech fabrics and make clothes you can wear around the city every day. So it's really trying to take menswear into the 21st century. Some of them are actually historical fabrics that we've kind of dug out of the archives. Some of them are brand new. A lot of them have a lot of stretch in them, but in ways that are different than what you would think of as a stretch fabric. A lot of them have water resistance. A lot of them are able to stay a lot cleaner. You don't need to dry them through a dryer, which is the most ecological damaging part of actually a clothing cycle. When you study the life cycle of clothing, the most energy use is actually in the dryer. So a lot of our clothes dry incredibly quickly. They're more comfortable. They breathe better. It's really about just sort of, menswear hasn't really changed in 100 years. There's stylistic differences that have changed, but very few people have really looked at it from a functional purpose and said, okay, let's try and re-engineer the clothes we wear every single day. Jeans were invented 150 years ago and people are still wearing them. And it's not that they're a bad product. They lasted 150 years and they're still a great product, but we think there's a better way to do things. It started with just a pair of pants. I was looking for a pair of pants that I could ride my bike to meetings. I was a graphic designer. I had no training in clothing whatsoever. And I was looking for a pair of pants that I could ride my bike into the city and meet with clients no matter what the weather was. Not worry if it was going to fall apart. I was destroying my jeans. I couldn't wear my nice wool dress pants on a bike because I was worried I would tear them up. And if it said 50% chance of rain, I would take the subway because I was worried I was going to get wet. And I got frustrated. I said, hey, there's got to be some better clothing out here for this. And so I went shopping, and I shopped and shopped and shopped and didn't buy anything because nothing was out there. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to make these pants. If this is what I really want, I'm going to have to figure out how to make them. And I had just learned a lot about fabric and all that sort of research. And so I identified the fabric I wanted to make the pants out of. I was able to source it from Switzerland, and then I brought it to New York's garment district and just started asking a lot of questions, and then eventually had a pair of pants. Yeah, about 95% of our manufacturing is in New York City right now. We do use factories on the West Coast and in Canada, and then for certain products, like it's impossible to make it in the US. There's certain items that you just absolutely can't make here. But we prefer making things in New York because it means we can move a lot faster. We can turn things around. The traditional clothing has a cycle where there's 2 to 4 inventory restocks a year, basically, and there's some fill-in and whatnot. But that cycle is basically slow. You're planning things out a year, 18, 24 months in advance. Huge amounts of inventory comes in and it sits around, and if you can't sell it, then you have to discount it and flush it away, essentially. And so our model's a lot leaner and faster, and because we're close to where everything is made, we're able to do it. So we're taking delivery of inventory basically every week, and then we put it online, and we try to have a month of stock or less at any given time. So it's a lot leaner and simpler, and it allows us to have more aggressive pricing without discounting. I had an animation company that I had started with some friends right after school. We ran that for 4 years, so that there was a lot of learning of how business runs, a different type of business. And then I had studied design as a graphic designer or information designer, really. And so the design process is obviously different with each world, but there's a lot of similarities, and the approach we take to designing clothing is actually closer to maybe an industrial design approach or the way a human interface designer would design something than a traditional fashion designer. It's not about making like beautiful sketches and then having them transformed into wonderful clothes. It's about identifying problems and sort of attacking them one by one and iterating rapidly and producing better objects. We sell directly. That was one of the key things when I first made the pant. Like you mentioned, it was a lot of learning to do. And one of the first things I did was like, okay, how does traditional clothing work? Well, traditional clothing, you have a designer who designs the clothes. They have a factory make it, and then they sell it based on samples in the wholesale market to department stores and small boutiques. And throughout that process, every step of the way, like the price keeps doubling. A lot often it's more than doubling, actually. And what's crazy is, like, yeah, there are some people making a lot of money, but for the most part, most fashion labels are struggling. There's a lot that go under constantly. A lot of boutiques the same way. So it's just a very expensive process, and I realized that the clothing I wanted to make was I was gonna make a $400 pair of pants, and I had never bought a $400 pair of pants before. I'd bought a $200 pair of jeans, and I said, okay, I have to figure out how to make it to that market, and that means I have to cut out one of these steps, one of these doubling price steps. And you know, I'd built websites before. I was better at making websites than I was at making clothes at that time, so it was really natural. I said, okay, I'm just gonna build a website and put the clothing on the website and talk to people. And that's what we did. We run a high service business. People have to be comfortable buying clothes online. You know, we have a very generous return policy, 45 days, no questions asked. You know, you can wear the clothes for 44 days and get it back to us on the 45th, and we'll give you all your money back, and we'll refund shipping both ways. So we spent a lot of effort. One of the first people me and Tyler, my partner, hired was somebody who was really doing mainly customer service, and it's something we spend a lot of time on. I still read almost every single email that comes in. I'm usually not the one responding, although occasionally I am. And it's important, you know, it doesn't matter, like if we grow to a huge company, I still want to be able to pick up the email and respond to customers. Sometimes it's important to know what's going on with your customers, and you know, working online makes that, you know, there's an incredible speed of communication, whether it's email or Twitter is huge for us. Instagram has actually been really big for us lately. We love working with Instagram. It lets us take people behind the scenes and build a relationship with a select group of customers. Some people care about it, other people don't. But Twitter gives you this incredible way to get feedback and talk to people and build dialogues with fans who then like tell other people about it. You know, just this week, William Gibson, the science fiction author, like found out about us and like started tweeting about us, and it's been crazy, you know, and we're getting sales because of it, and we have a dialogue, and it's fascinating. It's also crazy because I grew up as a kid reading his books, but you know, and none of that would have happened without Twitter.